What's going on, podcast peeps? Welcome back to the Zero to Here podcast. I'm your host, Denny Dumas. On tonight's show, good friend of the show, Shaun Francis. He's a local mortgage broker in BC. We get into some detail on the proposed new plan, affordable housing plan from Mr. Trudeau, if he's reelected in November. This is a good one you're not going to want to miss. Have a listen. Let me know what you think. Mr. Francis back.
Mr. Denny Dumas.
Action.
Hello, my friend. How are you doing?
Episode 1 of Zero to Here podcast featuring Shaun Francis. Episode 70 featuring Shaun Francis.
I'm glad to be here, and I put on a suit for you last time I was
Yeah,
here.
you did.
So I got to represent, right?
Number one fashionable guy in real estate.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So I have a reputation to maintain now. So
It's a sick blazer.
I thank you. It's called salmon, not pink. Salmon.
Thanks for that clarification.
Just if you're curious.
I want to start with some current events. We're going to talk about 2019, your take on real estate, on the Greater Vancouver real estate market.
Sure.
In 2019. But did you hear Trudeau's announcement last week? I'd heard he's talked about this before, and it's his affordable housing plan if he gets reelected. And one of the things was the federal government giving up to 10% of a down payment for first-time buyers, up to, I think, like $800K.
Yeah. Yes. I've heard of it. Yeah.
But they're going to own 10% of your home.
Correct.
First of all, seems almost criminal, but like, is anyone going to take advantage of this? Is anyone going to want the federal government to own 10% of their home? And is this a way for the federal government to get involved in growing real estate markets like Toronto and Vancouver?
It's still in its infancy, right? So it's hard to see where this is going to go. But if there's any indication of how this could play out, is you would look to see how the provincial home buyer incentive program went, right? Because it was the same principle where they would lend the money to the home buyer to buy the house, in fact at 0% down, and that gives the person to get into the opportunity to get into the market, and in a market they would not normally be able to get into. Mm-hmm. The challenge is when you start giving the money to the buyers for the down payment, the lender or the broker has to factor in that as a payment on the application, right? Which then makes it hard to qualify to begin with, right? And so
really, so even though you're not making monthly, yearly payments,
they got to factor that in,
okay,
right? And so when it happened provincially, it sounds great on paper, but when you go in and you have someone making marginal income, right, whatever that may be, let's say $50,000, and then you have to slap in a $20,000 loan from the provincial government with a payment on it, a lot of people didn't qualify. So it sounded like the government was giving out money to people to help them buy homes, right? But you still have to debt service the money that you're borrowing, and you have to debt service the mortgage. And because the deals now are qualified at the qualifying rate, which is 5.19, for example, the amount of home that you can borrow was like minuscule, right? And so what you're going to see is in this federal program, when it rolls out, it sounds great, but when you actually get someone that buys a home, for especially in British Columbia, it's going to be very difficult. Maybe it might work for the Maritime provinces or and somewhere else where the price point to get into a home is in the low 200s, for example, right? But in the Lower Mainland, it's just going to make it. It's still going to be very much of a challenge.
Is it going to be a problem or how is it even going to work? I don't know if they've even talked about this in detail yet, because it was more of like a proposal from Trudeau. But is the federal government actually going to be on title? You know what?
There's still yet to be seen, right? But I would suspect if they're saying we own 10% of it, then yes, they're going to have to be entitled. If you're saying I own 10%, right? And I don't know how that will get structured with the lawyers, right? But I'm sure there will be some sort of, that might be like a second mortgage or something like that, right? And where, their interest will be released once the house is sold or whatnot, right? But they might structure it as a second mortgage potentially, or 1/10 ownership, right? It can be done that way, I'm sure.
And they would get paid 10% of the sale?
I don't think they're in it to make the money, right? So I think that they would only be
They would
1/10 owner of the initial purchase price, right? Because
So
if
if
they
they
were
put up $20,000, for example, in 5 years when I sell my home, they're going to get $20,000 back.
whatever they gave, they will get it back, right? Because they're here to help people, not to like, run a business, right? So that's my
You never
interpretation
know.
of it, right? We'll see, right? But
Yeah.
I think they're just trying to have like a stake in it to ensure that someone, doesn't foreclose or whatnot, right? So the only way to make sure they get their money back is having a percentage of ownership of the property, right? I think that's kind of the vision with it, but it's yet to be seen still, right?
Working with first-time home buyers in Greater Vancouver, do you foresee people taking advantage of this, or do you see them seeing it more as a negative?
They got to qualify, right? So if they
So
qualify,
that you think that is going to be the biggest problem is
yes.
the 10% adds a payment onto their application, and that's going to allow them to qualify for less money.
Yeah, or not qualify at all,
Right.
right? Because you have to factor a payment into it, right? On top of carrying the actual mortgage itself, right? So,
Interesting. Okay.
but at the end of the day, if you have someone who's a young person that has buckloads of income, I don't know, however situation that may be, they could take advantage of it because they can either have that money coming out of their own savings account to put for the down payment, or they can get this money from the federal government, right, to help support their down payment, and then can keep whatever money they had in their savings to apply to something else. But my understanding of the guidelines is you can only, your income has to be under a certain threshold to qualify it.
I think household income needs to be under 120.
120, correct,
Yeah.
right? So then once again, that caps you, right?
Right.
So that's the trade-off, right? So, if you're that family that makes just a little bit under 120, then maybe it might be something for you. But if you're a family that needs like a house or a townhouse that's in the $800,000 range, well, then you're out of luck, right?
I just don't see a lot of people using it. And like that's actually a really good point that I didn't know about, is that there's going to be a payment that goes onto your mortgage application, which is going to allow you to qualify for less money. And it's funny, the comment that you make that people with a lot of money who are first-time buyers would be able to take advantage of this.
Well,
because it's just saving them 10%.
Exactly, but it's 100. You have to make under 120, right? But then how much does 120 really qualify you for, right? And then people who make a lot of money that could technically take advantage of this because they make so much money, they didn't need the program to begin with, right? So it always starts with the chicken or the egg, and who's it really helping, and does it sound good in paper, right? Versus in theory when you have to execute it, right?
Right. Obviously, affordability in markets like Greater Vancouver and Toronto are an issue for people who grew up here, for young people. This doesn't sound like a great solution.
Yeah, there's it's not an easy fix, right?
What would make it better?
Yeah, well, you talk to a lot of economists and stuff like that, right? And there's different ways of making things better. But for example, density, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had to go up, right? If it's smaller,
before.
Right? You got to basically look at 500 square feet, like less is more, right? And growing up, we were, for example, used to growing up in a big back home with 2-car garage, big driveway, big backyard. Now, maybe what you normally grew up in with a big house, you'd grow up in a townhouse, right? And when kids, instead of playing in their driveway, they'll be playing at the clubhouse at the townhouse complex that they live in, right? Mm-hmm. So I think people have to kind of get used to that reality. Maybe that might be the way to go, right? Because the incomes in BC are not going up year over year compared to the values of homes, right? Mm-hmm. So if you want to keep it affordable for the level of income in the area that you live, you would have to have a density, right? That's the answer. Or people need to be prepared to move out to the suburbs, right? But then what kind of like work-life balance are you going to have if you have all your talented individuals living in Mission, right? And people want to be, if you're a young person, you want to live downtown, you want to be part of the energy. And then at the same time, the companies that employ these people want the young people to be able to be close to work so they can show up on the weekends if necessary, or to do overtime and whatnot. And you want to be with like-minded individuals, right? So hence, making smaller but newer places, density, and maybe having rapid transit in taking you to these other areas in the hub, right? For example, we're out here in Burnaby right now doing this. Burnaby could potentially be a new hub for companies. Like our office for Bespoke Lending Solutions is in Burnaby, and we believe this is a great location because this could be the next big hub, where Yaletown used to be, and where all the head offices were, right? Because the price per square foot in Vancouver is a lot more expensive than where it is here, and it's a lot more expensive here than where it would be, let's say, in Surrey or Langley, for example, right?
How do we adjust this entitled mindset where people who grew up in Greater Vancouver assume that it's their right to own a single family piece of land in Vancouver?
Well, yeah, that was never the mentality that I had growing up.
Right.
But yeah, you hear that, right? But nothing in this world is guaranteed, right? So you got to have a work ethic, and you got to be able to, earn your stripes, right?
I think that's like, you talk about moving out to the suburbs. I think that's just the decision that people have to make.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like a lot of people turn their nose up to living in the suburbs. This is like, what is the alternative, right? Because at the end of the day, you got to live somewhere. So why would you, make yourself stressed out for a place to live when there's other things in life that's important, such as travel, or being able to, have a lifestyle that you like, which is maybe owning a car or be able to dress how you want to dress, right? So it's one component of your lifestyle need, right? It's a big one, don't get me wrong, but you gotta pick your battles. You can't have, what is it? There's a term, you can't champagne taste on a beer budget or something.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. I sound older than I really am, but yeah.
Is that a conversation you have with clients?
In terms of what?
In terms of, based on your income, you can qualify for this, but like, let's talk a little bit about lifestyle. What type of lifestyle do you want to live? Do you want to travel? Do you want to have kids? Definitely. Do you want to do these things, right?
I'm people's trusted advisor. So I like to, share with them my situation, right? Because I lived the whole downtown thing. You saw me. I lived downtown for a little while. And then when I had the opportunity, I moved with my wife to the suburbs, right? And we're extremely happy living in the suburbs, right? For our lifestyle, my office here is in Burnaby, but I commute back to Langley, right? And for my lifestyle, it's a good fit, right? Because it allows us to be able to have the lifestyle that we like and enjoy.
What do you think a lot of young people are realistic about that stuff? Or do you think a lot of people in Greater Vancouver, and I've heard some numbers in terms of like across the board in Canada, on average, I think people spend like 35 to 40% of their monthly income on housing.
Well, there's guidelines, right? They say that the official guidelines is no more than 39% of your family income could go to mortgages, and then no more than 45% of your family income can go towards mortgage and all other debts, which is property taxes, heating, car payments, student loans, all that, right? But the reality is I've seen deals, where the ratios are as high as 55%, right? But it's like, it's a little bit skewed because, for example, sometimes the applications, the income that people are generating, we can't include, be it rental income, for example, or a situation where somebody gets bonus income, but they just started a job. So you can't include that bonus income. But you're seeing a lot of Canadians living beyond their means, right? And I guess what's interesting for my job and, anyone that does what I do is we see everyone's financial picture. So we know what's really going on, right? But a lot of people we are helping, they don't know the backstory on how deals get done. And they might be, for example, a plumber A and plumber B. Plumber A gets a mortgage, he gets it done, he goes to his job site, he says, I've been approved, I'm living in this $1 million house, congratulations. Plumber B is like, I do this exact same thing as plumber A does, and he has a house of $1 million, so I want it as well too. He doesn't know plumber A is getting his father-in-law on the deal, his wife on the deal. He's got, a massive down payment, which is gifted to him, right? All he knows is he earns his house, right? Plus, plumber B sees plumber A rolling up to the job site in some sort of like, I don't know, Cadillac Escalade or whatever. And he's like, okay, well, not only do you want Shaun, I want you to finance this deal for me. I want you to help me finance this truck that I'm going to like also have, which is going to screw up my approval because I can't afford neither one of those, right? Which happens, right? So, people don't walk around with their T4 stamped to their face and what their income level is. So they don't know that. All they see is these external things, right? And a lot of people, which is what I believe now, is they're able to express themselves in the way they dress and the clothes they wear, the cars they drive, and not so much their homes, but even their homes now, right? And so there's this escalating ways of trying to define themselves, right? And it's going to become a little bit of a trap because people are getting to homes that they can not necessarily afford, right?
Is that the worst part of our society right now? And it's this phenomenon, like keeping up with the Joneses. Like, oh, my buddy bought this new watch, so I gotta show him up. Or he drives in a BMW, I want to drive a BMW.
Well, Instagram contributes, social media contributes to that as well too.
For
and
sure.
I guess another thing that just kind of hit my mind I wanted to address this too is we're in 2019. The way people are living their lives are a lot different in the 50s and 60s, for example, because I'll meet families and they're very comfortable making mortgage payments for their whole life, right? They can die or retire with a mortgage, and they could be perfectly fine with that. Whereas if that was in the 50s or 60s, totally, they were like, this house has to be paid off by retirement, and they would consider their life a failure if the house was not paid off. Mm. But now I've said to people, I've done deals for people where, they're like, okay, as long as we can afford the monthly payments, that's what we want. And it's my responsibility as a mortgage broker to go over the pros and cons of that type of behavior. I'm saying, okay, individual, you are 30 years old. By the time you're 60, we can have this mortgage paid off. But if you're individual 50 years old and we take you to a 30-year amortization, because that's the largest we can take it, then you have 30 years to pay it off and you're 50. So you're going to be having a mortgage well into your retirement. And then they're like, that's okay. I'm fine with that. So, at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to inform our clients and give them a game plan, but then we give them their scenarios and they then give us the feedback, right? And so a lot of people what's important is lifestyle. Mm. They want to have comfortable payments, right? And they want to be able to have their multiple trips a year. And that is just a symptom of the society we're living in right now. So back to your question is just like, yeah, people are taking over lifestyle over their financial responsibilities. And if you were to see the stats, it's, their savings rates have gone down, but their incomes haven't gone up. So something has to change, or there's a give somewhere.
Why do we care though? Why is that so important? Why do we give a shit what fucking Sally walking down the street thinks of you in your fancy shoes or, whatever? I take so much pride in going to Marshall's every year in Palm Springs and buying underwear for $4 and buying a 12-pack of socks for $6.99.
I think it comes down to your personality and how you're raised. And then also too, it comes down to people are getting influenced a lot more from social media than before, right? And, I don't know where I heard this, right? But I was told, or I read or I was told, someone who's extremely wealthy, that wealth can basically be gone within 3 generations, right? So what happens is if you're the first generation, you've earned the wealth, you've brought it up. Your second generation is used to a certain type of lifestyle and didn't have that hunger in the belly to be able to, and also the process to develop that, right? Because everything was kind of like set up for them. And then by the time the third generation comes around, they're so far removed from what took the first generation to make the money to get them to where they are. Then they start to squander it. Right? Because they don't know how to generate it, right? So that is, it comes down to how we were raised, right? And the baby boomers were, if you talk to anyone who's a baby boomer, they had to like ration their food, right? They had to, they didn't know where their next meal is coming from. Now it's just like we live in a generation now where people probably are spending more money eating out than buying groceries, right? Mm-hmm. So that all comes down to, the fundamentals of cooking and stuff like that. People, that has been lost on many people, right?
Now that you're a dad,
yes,
little man is just over a year.
Shout out to my little guy Ari. Daddy loves you. Yeah, he's a stud, but that's
Are
just
you
me.
consciously thinking about that in terms of like
Yeah,
not spoiling
definitely.
the kid so he
Definitely.
develops a bit of a work ethic and he,
I think that's very important to build confidence in your kids, confidence in yourself, right? Because if you're not confident, if you don't believe in yourself, how are you going to be able to, sell yourself to someone in terms for business and or for relationships or anything, right? And so as a father, that's something that my wife and I are trying to incorporate into him and every day, right? And that work ethic, right? Nothing's given, right? Even at a young age, right? If you get the right work ethic, I don't know, like once again, you had, one very smart individual, one guy that's not as smart, but motivated and dedicated and always learning. I'll take the guy, give me that guy every single day of the week, right? Because he's going to take what you've given him, respect it, appreciate it, and cultivate that and take it to the next level. Whereas the person who's naturally gifted, who's never had to exercise their brain or to develop themselves, they might just hit a plateau, and then you might see them doing well because of their natural talents, but they're just going to go like this, right? And in life, it's like, it's not what you've done for me, it's what have you done for me lately? And you always have to take things to the next level and level up, right?
how do you instill that in kids? Like, is that a conscious conversation that you have with your wife? Saying
We've
look,
had
we
that
can't give this
conversation.
kid ice cream every day, even though he's begging for it and crying for it.
Well, it starts at a young age. You have
Totally.
it's like that's a very good question. Like it's like that's something like when you start dating, you try to like determine what kind of individual they are already, right? Because you want to be on the same page, right? And I think you also do it by an example, right? If you're a parent and you're a father and your son sees you reading, or your son sees that you have a goal of maybe you open your own business and growing it or whatever, and he sees that, right? Then you inspire him, right? I think you're going to be able to get the response from your kids better by demonstrating that behavior than forcing it down them. So it's a combination of putting them in the right environment with people of like-minded, like families and kids of like-minded personalities. And then also you as a parent to be able to execute on what you're trying to instill in your kids to begin with.
Doesn't sound easy.
It doesn't, but it's like it's if if you live a lifestyle, like it's like almost like dieting, right? It's like dieting is. They said, I was watching another stat. They said like diets, only 2% of people who diet are able to like maintain their weight off, right? But
really, that low?
Yeah, it's very low, right? But if you live a lifestyle of eating well, working out, being active, then that's not really dieting. That's just living your life,
Right?
So it's not really hard if you continue to make it like a habit and it's ingrained in the way you are and however you are. Then it's not as difficult because it just comes second nature.
So the challenge then is starting those routines, how to build those routines, right?
Starting the routines at a very young age where it's like not even questioned, right?
Yeah.
Like if, for example, right now, like we're brushing his teeth, right? He's like a year old. He has no teeth. He has like 4 teeth in his mouth. And in the morning time, I'm brushing my teeth and I have his toothbrush in his mouth. And he's like, it's not really making a difference for his teeth.
Yeah.
But when it really matters, when he's 5 and 6 or 7, 8, 9, and 10, he's going to enjoy brushing his teeth because he's been doing it from get-go, right?
Yeah.
So he's not going to question it, right? Whereas if we didn't try to brush his teeth now, and then when it really matters, when he's 5 and try to stick a toothbrush in his mouth, he's like, what is this? I don't like this in my mouth.
Yeah.
And, so that is what I think is the recipe for success. So ask me in 6 years if he's still brushing his teeth, and I'll let you know.
I'll be able to tell just by the photos if he has any teeth left.
Yeah. He'll be good. He's a Francis, right? So.
Let's talk real estate.
Sure.
2019.
Yeah.
We were chatting before we started taping about last time we did this podcast, just like predictions for what was going to come in 2019.
Yeah.
And we both kind of saw a slower year coming. But what are you seeing right now? Well, one stat I want to throw out there and I want you to comment on. I heard, I think it was the president of the real estate of Greater Vancouver, Phil Moore. Shout out to Phil. Phil's a good. Do you know Phil Moore?
I've seen Phil, but
Yeah.
I don't think I've met him face to face.
He posted something on Facebook. I think it was at the end of July, so maybe sometime in August. 14,200 realtors in Greater Vancouver. more than 10,000 of the 14,000 have not done one deal in 2019.
That is shocking. I'm not surprised.
Isn't that insane?
I'm not surprised. I knew that it was going to be difficult, but that is a shocking number.
So just to give some background
Not
for
one deal?
listeners out there. Yeah. To give some background for listeners out there, on a typical year, usually 40% plus of those 14,000 realtors don't do a deal. They're like part-time people. They have other jobs. They really just hold a license. Maybe they work for a developer or, whatever, that doesn't do a project that year or whatever. But there's lots of realtors that aren't full-time realtors that don't do deals. So let's say on an average year, 6,000 of 14,000 don't do a deal, but it's almost double.
Well, like I said, I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised because I think it's the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the business is done by 20% of the people, right? And this year is just a greater symptom of that because when times are good, a lot of people rush into the space to capitalize on the opportunity. But when the going gets tough, then you start to see people exiting, right? And so that is a strong example of, if you're a marginal broker or marginal realtor, you're not going to get the business because there's just too much on the line right now. And clients' expectations have increased, right? And you have to deliver a certain type of response and to get yourself the right to earn that business.
Isn't it crazy though? Like obviously 2019 is a slower year for us. It's a slower year for most in real estate. The number of deals is down. 2016 and 17 were crazy.
Yep.
But this is a normal market and people are freaking out.
Yeah.
People
were spoiled before.
But there's a lot of negative comments being like, I don't know where my next paycheck's going to come from. A lot of agents buying listings, meaning like they're telling sellers that their property's worth a couple $100,000 more than what it actually is just to get the listing. And then they're consistently reducing price. It's a wild, I just don't understand all the negative feedback because for me, I got into the business 2014. 2014 was as bad or worse than 2019, but that's a normal market. Like sales ratios it's not really buyer's market of less than 10% selling every month. And it's not a seller's market over 20% selling every month. It's like 16%, which is normal. So I don't understand all the negative feedback from realtors.
I think it's a reflection of people who were spoiled, right? And you had a lot of people who became realtors and mortgage brokers that normally would not choose these professions because there was not a level of passion involved in it. They were focused on the income potential that it can generate for you. And then if you do well in this space, you can earn a great lifestyle and income, right? But there's work to be involved. There's work to be done, right? And, you could be a marginal broker realtor and you could have earned money. I remember, I don't remember if we discussed this when I came to your last podcast, but I went to an open house and it was like, this is exactly how it went. It was an open house in Vancouver. It was the height of the market. It was crazy time. And the realtor was like on her phone, texting. And it was just like, take a look around. And she was like, it wasn't very helpful. Didn't sell the property in terms of like talk it up or the features of the property. She just basically was like, come on in, do your own thing. She would text the whole time. I think myself and my buddy, we were there for about 10 minutes. We took the tour ourselves. And at the end of the day, it was a Saturday. We were there on Saturday and it went on the market on Friday. And the response was, we're taking best and final offers on Monday morning. So let us know what that will be. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. That was and I'm not saying that's a reflection of all realtors, but that was, and I'm guaranteed or most likely that property sold over asking, right? Because that was just a symptom of what was going on in the market at the time, right? But now you definitely got to like sell the property. You got to like invest in marketing. And you have to show your clients to even get the listing what your strategy is to be able to get that property sold for asking price or over asking, right? And so that's work. And for some people, that's very intimidating, right? So yeah, it is a challenge, right? But it's rewarding because you're going to earn a paycheck, but you're also earning the right to work with that client and their potential a base of friends and family that comes along with that.
obviously, like you guys are having a good year.
Yeah, yeah.
Is this your best year?
This is my best year yet. I'm very proud to say that I'm having my best year yet, and in a down market, right? So, I think that's a symptom of, or not a symptom, a reflection of the great people that I get to work with in my office, who are inspiring me with how they conduct their business and how they're able to grow their book of business, and also two of the innovative ways I'm trying to grow my customer base, right? And in difficult opportunities, there's opportunities that present itself, and we're trying to capitalize on that. And you might be saying, well, Shaun, how does that happen, right? But there's a lot of people who are, for example, self-employed, or people who have income but they can't get approval because they're foreign buyers or whatnot, right? And there is lenders out there who are looking to work with those type of individuals. And me as a broker, I'm finding creative ways to find approval for this market segment of the market that's not being serviced, right? And we're finding good results. Plus, we're fun guys to work with as well, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, your success this year is not dependent on like the work you've put in this year, although in some parts it is. But for me, it's more like you've built up a business. You've spent hundreds and thousands of hours working your butt off for the last, how long have you been independent now? 4 or 5 years?
4 years now.
4 years.
Yeah.
So it's, for me, success in a slow market is all the work you put in the past.
I would definitely say so.
Right? It's all the phenomenal experiences you've had with clients. It's them now referring you to their friends. It's the reputation you've built in the industry. Whereas a lot of people are very short-term thinking in a slow market, thinking, how can I get this next deal? Whereas like the people who have been successful for a long time are thinking, how do we continue to grow long-term? We're not really concerned. And I would assume you'd agree that numbers this year are not going to make or break my career. Like I'm thinking, how do we continue to grow? How do we continue to provide opportunity for the members on our team to keep growing for the next 20 years, right?
The strategy that I personally have for myself, and how we like to coach everyone in the office, is we want to be in this space for 10 or 15 years, right? So what are you going to do within the context of operating your business to be successful, not only for this year, but also for year 10 and year 15, right? Ethically doing your deals, right? Because if you don't do it, if you don't do your deals ethically, you're out of the business, right? But that also too, you have to weigh that with the idea of I need to make a certain level of income right now to be able to live and have a lifestyle, because you can't worry about year 10 if you can't take care of year 1, right? So it's a little bit of a fine line, but you do want to build for the future. And how do you do that is you give advice to somebody who's, let's say, 25, who's buying a house, to be able to have a way for them to be able to exit out of their mortgage if they need to get out of their mortgage without a massive penalty. Because if I'm going to be wanting to work with that person in the future, you give them the advice where if they need to get out of the mortgage early, they're not going to get a big penalty and then blame myself, for example. So, for example, if someone's buying an investment property to flip, right? And, I give them the pros and cons of going fixed versus variable, right? And whereas if you go variable, the penalty is 3 months interest. Whereas if you go fixed, it could be a massive penalty. And then all that profit they would have gotten would have been gone, right? Because they have to go to pay it to the bank. Whereas if they had taken my advice and taken a variable, which would have been a higher rate initially, but overall, because they're only keeping it for 6 months or a year, they're going to be better off, right? Those are the kind of things, right? And like I said, in a bad market, in a good market, people's mistakes get covered up because the house goes up in value. They can sell it for more than what they bought it for, and everyone's happy. But if their margins their income, their values are compressed because you can only sell the house for so much more money in a down market, then every single penny counts, right? And so when you give someone good service and you're giving them ethical service and they have a good result, they can respect that. And then you can earn the right to be able to get more business from them in the year 2 or year 5 or wherever it may be. And they'll refer their friends and family to you. And that's kind of how you build a sustainable business.
You have how many brokers on your team now?
We have a team of 17 of us now.
Good for you guys. That's awesome.
So when we first started, it was 4 of us, including the office manager.
Yeah.
Now we're up to 18 of us.
How do you present that exact point in terms of, regardless of the situation, regardless of whether it's your first deal or your 120th deal, how do you present to new brokers that in every situation, you need to give the client the best advice? So, and the way I'm coming at this question is, I was in a listing appointment today. After listening to the homeowner's full situation, the property was tenanted, so it's going to be difficult to sell, especially in a slower market. My advice to her was, are you in a hurry? If not, like, let's wait till the spring. The tenancy is going to be towards the end of the agreement. It's going to be a lot easier to sell when someone can move in. Whereas someone who I think is maybe not done a deal in 2019, or a little bit more, or a little bit earlier in their career, a little bit more desperate for a quick paycheck, is just like, yeah, let's get it on the market. Let's move this thing right now.
Yeah, like I knew exactly where this was going when you said it, because you have to internally, the realtor or the broker, you need to be able to approach the situation where I'm prepared to lose this deal. I'm prepared to lose this client. I'm prepared to not get the listing. I'm prepared not to get someone's mortgage. If it's a $500,000 mortgage, which is a very good size mortgage, to $1 million size mortgage, which is a wonderful size mortgage, right? I need to approach every single transaction. If I don't get it, that's fine. I need to be able to live with that, because then when you have that attitude going into it, the meeting is so much more smoother with the client, because your advice is unbiased and you're not affected with the outcome, right? But when you are concerned with the outcome, then your truth sometimes could be not the truth. I'm not saying people, you know what I mean? Like, what I'm trying to say is, it doesn't flow as the dynamic between you and the client, it doesn't seem as smooth, right? And you can stick to your guns and say, you know what, you're buying this investment property, you're going to sell in 6 months. It doesn't matter if you're getting a variable rate of prime +1 versus, you know, a 5-year fixed of 4.99, or because I don't want you to be paying, you know, $15,000 in penalty, right? But at the end of the day, if you told your client your truth, and then they still choose to go the other route, then you've done your job and you can live with that your conscience, right? So that's kind of the attitude I would have, and that's the attitude I know that's how you've had with your clients, right? Because what's going to probably happen is that the client goes with the other realtor, it's not going to get sold, and they're going to get frustrated, and they're going to get fired anyways, and they're going to come to you because, you know, Denny did give me the right advice and I should have listened to him, and they kick themselves. I've seen it happen, right? And if you're in the business long enough, you start to see the patterns, and then you got to trust the process. I think that's like a very important comment, right? Which is, we say to the younger brokers or people who are new, is just like, you know what? Be firm, believe in your information, and trust that it's all going to work out in the end, because that's the only thing. You have to have faith, right?
Is it difficult for a lot of young brokers to understand, to put that into practice?
Well, when you're new and you're 100% a commission, and every deal is more meaningful than someone who's established, for example, and who's been around for 5 or 10 years, and they might have a partner that also has income coming in. So it's a lot easier said than done. But that's why this space is not for everyone, right? Because especially if you're new to industry, there's a barrier to entry, right? Which is, you know, the fact that, you know, the income or the cash doesn't start flowing for several months to a year to 2 years for some people, right? But those people who are good will not allow one transaction to define their success, right? And yeah, you're gonna, you know, I've lost, you know, some big deals, and it's like a kick to the stomach, right? But it's just like, you know, it's part of the business. And yeah, like, you feel sorry for yourself for about 2-3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, but you pick yourself up and you got to keep moving, right? Because no one's crying for you, right?
Before we start taping, you mentioned something about having a question for me about like having the conversation with a seller saying, your neighbor sold for this much in 2017. Your property's not worth that much. Do you remember what that was?
No, but that always goes into my mind. Like, how does that go down, right? Because, you know, I think to myself, right, you know, people get their property tax assessments coming in, right? And the property tax assessments are, I think it's like 10%. They're actually, whatever the property tax assessment is the values are like 10 to 15 to even 20% lower than what the property tax assessment is. And they're going to say, but Denny, my property attachment says this. So how does that conversation go, right? And then how can my heart goes out to the realtors. Like, how are you going to be able to convince a client to like you be their realtor when you're trying to sell it for less than what it sold for before, and they've only sold maybe never before in their life or once because they haven't seen this before. So they, it's hard. You can't blame the customer either because they've never seen this before. Like this is a very different phenomenon, right? They're used to hearing houses going up, buy something for 300,000 and it goes to 375 the next year, right? So, how can you verbally explain this to a client when they have to go through this journey to really understand what it takes for the property to be sold and what it really is the value of the home is not what the neighbor sells for it. The value of the home is what the market says, right? And that's two different things.
That's a great point. And it's not an easy thing to do. My approach on it is ridiculous honesty. So it's, sure, this is your property assessment. Honestly, I use this line all the time. I don't even look at them. They don't mean anything.
Yeah, it's a snapshot in time. It's literally a snapshot in time that was like 6 months in the past.
It's a completely approximate snapshot in time too, right?
Yeah.
No one from BC Assessment is coming into your home and looking at it, looking at where it's located on the street, looking at that it backs onto a park or that it backs onto a busy street. Like no one's looking at that. Those can be the difference of a couple $100,000. So it's an approximation. It's like one guy who has this big square of a neighborhood and is just saying, okay, average price per square foot in this neighborhood are this, your square footage is this, here's your property assessment. So they're very approximate numbers in strong markets, in weak markets. I really don't put much weight on them. If your property assessment is a lot higher than market value, maybe it's a marketing tool to say, okay, it's priced $100,000 under assessment, but like competent realtors don't really take that into account.
Okay, but
so how do you present that?
And then
it's market data. So like showing your expertise in a neighborhood, saying, look, we represented a sale 3 doors down or a couple blocks away. They had a fully renovated kitchen. It was a pretty similar style home, sold for this. Your property assessment's $150,000 higher than that. Your home, unfortunately, is not worth more than that home. They had $100,000 worth of updates that your home does not have. A lot of our clients right now are doing the transition. So single family homes have come down more than strata properties in the last 12 to 18 months. Yeah, so a lot of young families, I'm sure a lot of them, you're seeing some mortgage applications for this stuff, are looking to move from strata to single family.
Sure.
Because the
Now's time to do that. Yeah.
The gap's closed. Totally. And so they're saying, well, my neighbor's 2-bedroom condo sold for $650. Why are you telling me mine's worth $575? And the way that most people understand it is looking at the entire equation, right? So you're not just selling your home, you're also buying something.
True.
If you sold your condo for $650 this year, if you sold your condo for $650 in 2017, that house would have cost 1.2.
Sure.
If you're selling today, your condo's gone down maybe 10%. Let's say roughly $60K off. Let's say $575, $580. So you've lost $60,000, $70,000 of equity in your home, in your condo.
Sure.
But that house is now worth $1,050,000. So you're losing $60,000 on the sale, but you're gaining $150,000 on the purchase.
For sure. So you're net, right?
Exactly. So once you explain that equation to a lot of the people that are trying to do this transition right now, it makes a lot of sense to them. And they aren't worried so much about the sale figure as now you express the entire equation.
Because their net
right?
overall situation is more positive.
Exactly.
This down market opposed to the height of the crazy market. Because if I don't have to re-explain it to you because that's exactly how it is.
Exactly.
Right? So yeah.
The more difficult conversations are when people are going the other way. So when people are downsizing, when they're selling their family home that they've had for 30 years and they're moving into a 2-bedroom condo. Their family home's gone down, in some cases, $500,000. Like it sucks, but we had a listing this year that didn't even sell, that across the street, a lesser home sold in 2016 for just over $3 million. And their home was worth like 2.1.
Yeah. See, that's
right. We had it listed at 2.5 and it didn't sell.
It's a function of time, right?
So in those situations, the conversation's a little trickier. And again, with experience and not being desperate for a sale, a lot of the time my advice is, well, what's your urgency? If you really don't want to maintain this home anymore, this is the value. And if you want to sell it today, this is where it's going to sell. Otherwise, you're just going to list it and it's not going to sell. But if you're not urgent, if you can hang on to it for another year or two and wait for the market to climb or come back, I don't know how long that's going to be. It depends a lot on what the hell Trudeau's up to in Ottawa. It depends a lot on interest rates. It depends on stress tests and like a bunch of things that we don't have control over. So that could be 12 months from now. That could be next spring. It could be 5 years away. So if you're willing to wait, so are we.
When you speak your truth,
exactly,
then the people appreciate that, because because most people assume that the realtor is going to like, hey, we got to list this thing right away, right? Exactly. But when you start coming at them from a value proposition, right? And I think everything in value, and anything in life, you got to see what is the value of it, right? And if you come to them with this value proposition, they're gonna almost like stop, and they're like, what? You're not trying to pressure me to like list. And that will resonate in their mind, right? And you might not get the listing per se, but they might have a coworker that says, you know what, this Denny guy, is the real deal, right? He's giving me some great advice, right? And then we're gonna maybe hold off, or that's when you pass that referral my way, and I get them like a nice big juicy line of credit, right? And allows them to be able to kind of like meet their whatever cash flow needs that they're dealing with, right? Throw some renters in there, and then they go rent in a condo until the market's better, and then they're happy, right? Because if you just in that scenario, the house in the height of the market sold for $3 million, right? And now it's let's say 2.1, they're gonna realize a loss of $900,000. So what is stopping from that person to getting some sort of line of credit, living off of that line of credit because they are cash strapped, for example, for 2, 3, 4, 5 years rent, right? And you do the math on that, and if all of a sudden you pay with interest over 5 years while you're renting, and then turn your home into a rental, and you sold your house now for $3 million versus 2.1, you're up, right? So that's kind of like how you have a trusted advisor that gives you value. You can walk a way ahead, right? So when you start doing those type of things, you're going to get the right to earn more referrals. And, if I, as a mortgage broker, are giving them creative ways and how they can live a lifestyle and not lose money and whatnot, then we're going to do well in this space. Right. So, I think part of this whole podcast is trying to inspire the viewers and different ways of doing business, right? And finding out ways to be creative to like add value to the person that you're working with. And then you can then be able to get more business and earn the right to get more referrals.
I just love that we get to share experience, right? So the stuff that I've been through in business and personal life is so different than what you've been through in business and personal life versus Carl and I love listening to the real life conversations, because you learn so much when people are genuine, I feel like, and I can take something. If you're talking about your situation of growing from a single broker to now you have 18 people on your team, that's super impressive. And there's things along the way, I'm sure, that you probably could have done differently or made mistakes, but that's the valuable information that I want to share with people. A lot of our listeners, I assume, are like us, are like young people that are trying to get businesses off the ground, or are in real estate, or are mortgage brokers, and are at that level where they're a couple years into the business, they want to grow, they don't really know what the next step is. So I'd love to hear a little bit more of how you've gone in a really short period of time, which is very impressive, from being on your own to now a team of 18. And let me start by asking you this. Did you always want a partner? Like when you started as an individual broker and said, okay, I'm getting busy, I need some help. What was the thought process like in terms of bringing on partners rather than starting your own thing, hiring an assistant, bringing on a junior broker, whatever it may be?
I always think that there's enough business for everyone out there that who wants it, right? So that was the first thing that went through my mind, right? Because, at the end of the day, it's better to win and succeed with your partners or people that you love and care about than to do it by yourself, right? Because when I was at the bank, you would used to work on your deals from your home office, right? And so you were like almost like a lone wolf, right? And when you get a complicated file approved or whatever, you had no one to share that success with, right? Except for your spouse. And many times they're so far removed from the industry, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
And yes, you have your coworkers in the bank side, right? But you would see them maybe at the branch, or you would have to meet them for coffee, or you would have to meet them in your monthly sales meeting, right? But what we've got going on and what we set it up is we work together side by side in a physical location, right? And so that was something that was very appealing, because it's like we were working like as a crew, right? And as a pack, right? Like some of the best workouts I have, I go to CrossFit, is when I go to my CrossFit class and the music's blazing and I'm watching the guys, like I'm doing a tough set. I'm watching the guy next to me and he's going hard. I'm like, okay, I got to go hard too, right? Because I don't want to like mess up the flow that's going on, right? That's what happens in the office, right? And if I got a buddy that just did found a wonderful solution for one of his clients, and who was able to do it and was very complicated, it's like I learned from that, and then I kind of stored in the back of my head, and I now know that scenario comes up, I can speak with authority on it because I know that my business partner was able to get it done, right? So that is the power of running it with a crew of like-minded individuals, and we're always inspiring each other to kind of level up, right? So that is why it was never a question of, okay, I want to do this by myself. Like, it's not fun winning by yourself. It's fun winning with your crew of your people, right? So I love the idea of having partners, right?
That's such a good point, and that's something I bring up. Like, anytime I meet with an agent who's just got into the industry and they're like, where do I start? Where do I go from here? My advice often is find someone in the neighborhood that you want to work, whether it's a suburb, Vancouver, whatever it is. Find someone and just follow them around. Like, try to team up with someone. Being on a team, the right fit of a team, I think is so valuable, because let's say, for example, our team now has 6 agents. We did 120 deals last year. Each individual agent maybe is only doing, let's say on the low end, 10, on the high end, 45, 50 deals, but they're seeing 120.
Correct.
And every Tuesday morning we meet as a team and talk about if there's any unique situations that came up, a specific, really one-off term that we had to add to a contract for this specific reason. We're sharing all that information so that everyone, even though they're not doing 120 deals, they're seeing 120 deals worth of contracts and negotiations.
That is like university in a box, right?
Totally.
But it's like real life on the job training, right? There's nothing better than that, right? And that way, if you're a new broker, if you're a new realtor, a new broker, that's how you're going to learn, and that's how you're going to be able to find the ability to like pick up these deals that you never thought were possible. Because if let's just say you're a new broker and you want to earn the right to like land a $2 million deal, you can't expect to land a $2 million deal if you're brand new if you can't land a $200,000 deal. Right? There's levels, right? So you got to like incrementally learn, right? And how do you earn the right to get a $200,000 deal? Well, if you're seeing one of your senior business partners speaking to a client a certain way to land that $2 million deal, you take that client experience and verbiage onto your $200,000 deal, right? And then you build your confidence, right? And then you build that you then earn the right to do a $500,000 deal, right? And then all of a sudden, when your time comes 6 months down the road or wherever it is, now you're in that category. You can earn the right to be able to discuss and work with that people. And obviously you can go from here to here within weeks or whatever, right? But if you want to consistently learn and build the business, you got to like move through, the progression, right?
If, whether it's a mortgage broker or a realtor who's thinking of starting a team, any advice for hiring? Like when do you need to hire? A lot of people are at that fringe point, right? But whatever, we can both share our thoughts on it. You have more people on your team than me.
Yeah, but it's like, they're independent sub brokers, right? So everyone does their own book of business, right? So
let me ask you this then. You're bringing on new brokers, just like we now have 4 other realtors on our team. What are you looking for in terms of personality, work ethic? How do you How do you pick up on things in a 30-minute coffee meeting with someone and say, yeah, I want that guy or girl on my team?
That's a good point. Well, we're called Bespoke Lending Solutions. So it's like, okay, you got to dress the part. Starts with that, right?
So I would not be welcome on your team, is what you're saying.
I seen you in a suit, buddy. You could rock it like a champ. I seen it, man. But yeah, like it comes with a certain level of ideology or whatever you want to call it, right? But like-minded people like to be around like-minded individuals, right? Like if you're hardworking and you have a knowledge about the space, you know, we want to kind of have a conversation and see if there's a mutual benefit from us on our end and also from you as well too, because they need to get, whoever decides to join, they need to get some sort of value from the experience. If not, they're not going to stick around long term, right? So the whole idea is trying to find a mutual benefit for everybody, right? So that's kind of like the vibe that we want to see is like, okay, are you knowledgeable in this space? Do you have that type of professionalism, right? Look wise, and and also to how you treat the clients. Do you speak a certain way to your clients with respect, right? Do you understand the value of reciprocity, right? And, because of those in the marketing, right? If you have those intangibles locked down, those are the fundamentals that will make you a wonderful broker. So that's just my take on that. But I am excited to discuss with you about, support staff and like leveling up and when is a good time to do all these things, right? Because that's something that fascinates me, scaling and growing a business. Like when do you do these things, right? Because you hit a capacity, right? And so we've had this conversation before and I can share with you kind of like my mindset on it, right? And then we kind of go from there.
Yeah.
I feel you try to take the business or your capacity to as a level that you can possibly do as far as possible for a definite amount of time. So what I'm trying to say is if your capacity as a mortgage broker is funding, I don't know, let's say 10 deals on your own, you get to that capacity, 10 deals on your own, and you could probably do 13 deals or so on your own, but your quality of service to your clients will be a disservice, right? Yeah. There's got to be a time where you can only run at peak capacity for a little while when you want to get yourself to the next level, right? So, if you are a betting person and if you are very confident with your skills, once you start doing your 5 deals, then you can bring on help to get yourself to 15, 20 deals, right? But it is always a function of, okay, do we have the resources? Is the timing good for this or not, right? So I think the only person who can judge that is whoever is in that scenario. And maybe they might have a line of credit put together. They can afford to bring on somebody and not worry about having the revenue to pay them. Right. I think I was watching $1 Million Listing. No, I think I was watching Ryan Serhant's vlog, and he was mentioning that he had a driver. His name is Yuri, for the fans of the show.
Yuri is a beauty.
Yeah. So Yuri's his driver. And he said, before he was even making money, he had Yuri on, he was paying Yuri a salary, right? Because he said, I know that this was an important component of my business and I built it into my cost of being a realtor, right? So that's the attitude, right? Because he could have like hustled and struggled and then made his money, then invested into having the driver, but he built it into his business model. And it was allowed him to, in my opinion, be able to be a successful realtor at a faster clip than if he didn't have it, right? But everyone has their journey that they got to go through to finally figure out what the formula is for them, right?
Like my comment and what I just wrote down as you were talking is you need to reverse engineer your goals. Correct. So what are your goals? Is your goal to be a single agent that, you enjoy the lifestyle, but you work your ass off and you do 30 deals a year? Maybe you have one full-time assistant that helps you with paperwork and uploading photos and stuff and marketing, whatever it may be. Or is your goal to build a team and do $250 million worth of real estate in a year, or, whatever those goals are, reverse engineer them.
Correct.
And as you keep progressing, you're not going to get from 0 to 250 million in a year. But as you keep progressing, as soon as you can afford to pay someone to take something off your plate where you can be more effective elsewhere. So for me, what I really like doing is being in front of clients and negotiating and selling. I don't like doing paperwork. I don't like uploading photos. I don't like ordering strata documents. I don't even know how to order strata documents.
Okay.
Right. But as soon as you can pay someone to take all that stuff off your plate, I can do more selling.
Right.
If I was uploading photos for every new listing to Paragon, if I was ordering title searches and strata documents and all that, that's probably 3-4 hours out of my day every single day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, that I'm not selling, that I'm not in front of people, that I'm not networking, that I'm not podcasting and meeting people. Like that's what I really like to do. And that's where I see my value in. And so I don't think, nor am I very efficient at paperwork and all that kind of stuff, I think as soon as you can afford to do it, you hire someone to take something off your plate, whether it's your like creating social media, like we have a full-time social media marketing person on our team now, whether it's for realtors, strata documents and title searches and Paragon and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think at the core of it, what you really need to take a step back and think about is reverse engineering goals. So coming up with where you want this business to take you, how you're going to get there, and then moving backwards.
That is life in general. Like I feel like
for sure.
That is, if you are looking to date a type of individual, then it's like, okay, where would this person be, at this moment, or what kind of crowd do they operate in, and where, I want to be there, and so I can meet this type of I like to hike, for example, and the person should be an active person, so I will start joining a hiking club, and I will be around people that like to hike, and then that kind of works to that type of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Going into our business, it's the same thing. You're right. It's just like, okay, if I want to do, I don't know, $1 million in business as a realtor, $1 million as a mortgage broker, that works out to be, I don't know, 20 something deals funded a month. 20 something deals funded a month works out to be average mortgage size of $500,000. So I need to be able to then contact 40 people in a month, right? Of those 40 people, I probably will be doing 30 pre-approvals, and of those 30 pre-approvals, 20 funded deals, right? So you're definitely right. That's how you work it, right? And you work the plan, right? I guess another piece of feedback that I've noticed with some newer individuals in my time as a broker is we're result-oriented individuals. We get paid for results, not effort.
Yep.
So what you talk about with Paragon, and you talk about loading pictures into the platform will not put a commission into your pocket, right? And so when you said that if you're able to find someone that can pay you, that can do that, and allows you to do what you can't do best, which is sell, and selling leads to commission, then we invest our time into finding ways so we can earn commissions. I met a lot of brokers that will say, I am so busy, but what are they being busy with? They're busy maybe driving to North Vancouver once, twice, 3 times to meet a client on the weekend, and the client says, oh, can you come back because my husband decided to take the kids to soccer? And then they're like, yeah, no problem. And then go back again the next weekend. That is not going to give you a commission. And even if it does give you a commission, it's an inefficient way of earning your commission because you're seeing the same client twice, right? So you got to figure out what your time is worth and operate accordingly, right? And so that's another thing too, is high value activities. A high value activity would be, for example, doing a presentation with a realtor partner at a home buyer seminar where you can interact with 30 or 40 different people. And that would be 2 hours, right? Or 3 hours. To me, that's 3 hours well spent, opposed to, driving back and forth. Like I said, if you live in the suburbs, driving to North Vancouver, trying to convince someone to do a deal, or someone who you cannot determine if they are a client that wants to work with you, and they kind of giving you the runaround, right? And then you're like, well, maybe if I keep on dripping on them after 5 times, then I convince them to work with me. Maybe that's possible, but maybe they're just not into you, right? So
I think a lot of people, especially early on in your career, if you're a few years in, you're gaining some traction, you're real estate wise, let's say you're doing 20, 25 deals a year. A lot of people are very concerned about their bottom number, so their paychecks. Whereas if the goal, and again, if your goal is to do 30 deals a year for the rest of your life and it's a super comfortable living, and just maintain that, that's fine. But if your goal is to build something, if your goal is to build a team, build a business, you have to understand and prepare yourself to make less money short term. So, example, yes, this year's down a little bit, but we've been super lucky enough to bring on some phenomenal realtors onto our team this year. And if they're not happy, if they don't make a decent amount of money this year, even in a down year, they're not going to be with us for very long, right? So instead of me being selfish, and I am not even close to full capacity this year, but I could be if I just took more of our clients on and was selfish and wanted to make a little bit more money this year. But I'm so much more concerned about keeping them happy so that long term we can keep growing and taking a huge pay cut this year. And I think that is super important if your goal is to build a business. Is the bottom line number every year can't be the most important thing for you.
Well, I agree. You're the CEO basically of the business. And the difference is when you're the CEO and owner of the company, you have a vested interest in seeing, when I say CEO, you're the CEO and the owner, right? Because those are two different things, right? You want to see the business be successful for the long term, right? And so you're going to undertake activities to make sure that not only is the short term taken care of, but also the long term is taken care of, right? And absolutely, if you're gonna, because what's gonna happen is when the market turns around, or if the market's not even down, right? But like when the market gets really really hot, right? You want to be able to have a crew of people who are primed and they know the market, they know the newest Westminster market, they know their business, that they can hit the ground running, right? But if you are constantly cycling through new realtors and new individuals that doesn't know the systems and knows, then you're going to be behind and you're not going to be able to kind of have full capacity. So absolutely, that's how you build a long-term business, right? I remember I was talking to a friend and he was telling me about one of the companies he worked at, and in this company, after after the financial crisis in 2008, he said that the CEO said to everyone, "Do not worry, your jobs are going to be taken care of, and we'll make sure no matter what, your guys are going to still be employed," right? And then here they are, whatever, 11 years later, people are loving this company because the company was able to kind of like say what they said and do what they do. And people are loyal to them to a fault because they took care of them for the long term, short term and long term, sorry.
I think a lot of new entrepreneur business owners undervalue how powerful having good people on your team is.
Yeah. Yeah, like that is it, because they feel that that sometimes this people's skill sets are disposable, right, or interchangeable, right? But you really don't know someone's value until you have to rehire or restaff, right? And then you got to go through that dance, right? And it's a very painful thing, right? Because training is not the most easiest thing to do.
When you're meeting with someone new, let's say you're looking for a new admin staff or even a new broker, first of all, where did you learn to interview? Because I assume you're doing a fair amount of interviewing now, bringing on new people.
We do.
Where are you learning to interview, and any favorite questions, topics to bring up?
I remembered one of my quick little story here. I remember one of my first job interviews. I was at SFU and I was in a co-op position, and they asked me to sell a pen to them.
I fucking hate that question.
You know what? And it was the cheesiest thing. And I decided to do literally a song and dance, and I was like, buy this pen. Like, it was the stupidest thing. So that's why I never do that in my questions, right? Just I don't know why that made me bring up that story, but it was kind of interesting. I think the questions that we ask the people is like, tell a little bit of, we like to keep them open-ended questions, right? Tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, what did you like about your last job? What did you like about what do you want to like about the job that you're going into? Because that gives us a little insight in terms of like what turns them off, what gets them excited and motivated, right? And we just kind of sit back and listen, right? And we're still kind of like in our infancy in terms of like interviews and stuff like that, but we kind of have it down a little bit now in terms of like what the role description is, right? And And we also just want to put it out there. This is the vibe. This is the kind of atmosphere that we have. Will it be a fit for you just as much as a fit for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then people will self-select, right? Because if they are attracted to what we got going on, then it's like it's very easy because they want to be there, right?
Mm-hmm.
No one, like, especially in this industry, it's like you don't need to be here if you don't want to be here. So it's very easy to do. So that's kind of like the game plan.
My interviews, I try to take very conversational. So it's not so much questions. It's more like just trying to get to know them a little bit. And I don't know if you do this or not, but before every interview, I'll look at the person's social media.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I get to know them a little bit. I know you kind of learn a little bit about what they like doing, whether it's like they like hiking.
But can you trust their social media? Because is their social media authentic? It's hard to, because a lot of people, sometimes they do stuff on social media, but it doesn't align with their personality. Do you agree with that statement?
Yes, but I think you can also have a pretty good insight into most people's social media.
So you think the majority of people's social media is an authentic representation of themselves?
I think you can look at someone's profile and know what's fabricated and what's not in a lot of situations.
Yeah. The jury's yet to be out on that because I don't know, because, I'm happily married right now, but I was a single guy, right? So, I did the whole, like, social media, and kind of being able to, like, study whatever the person projected on social media, but it didn't necessarily align with how they are, right? So that's kind of why, like reviewing their social media, I don't know if that really translates well. But what I can say, one quick one, what I can say is, if someone who's you're interviewing and you look at their social media and it's like complete, like, blackout drunk photos or whatever, that's a good sign that they have very bad judgment and we're going to steer clear away from them.
So, well, that was what I was kind of getting to, was checking out their social media to get an idea of who they are, or at least who they're trying to portray. And then the interview process is confirming or seeing how genuine they are, right? So asking them what motivates them, what they like doing outside of work. If all their photos are hiking and being outdoors and their first comment is like, I like sleeping in on Sunday mornings, like, probably a little bit fabricated. Or if all their photos are them with their buddies drinking beer and the first thing they say is, oh, I really like running, or like, I like being active, then you can probably tell pretty quickly that they're not super genuine. So I like having the opportunity to compare the two.
Do you think it spoils the interview because you looked at their social media first? Like, do you think there's value in clean slate, doing the interview with the individual first, and then figure out what your opinion is of them? Then you look at their social media to, like, do you think there's any value to doing it that way?
No, I like my way.
You should try it. You should try it one time.
Do the interview for okay, but I'm not judging. I'm not like.
But you say you're not. I'm not saying you're judging, but you might be subconsciously influenced, right? Before, because we all get influenced in a certain way, rightly or wrongly. Malcolm Gladwell, right? Like, people like make split second decisions based on their opinions, right?
But at the same time, in an interview, if you're asking questions, whatever, say, what motivates you? In a service business, it's easy for someone who is somewhat intelligent to say, I want the clients to have the absolute best possible service. Whatever. I want the entire transaction to go super smoothly. I want them to give me a great review, like all these things. It's so easy to say that stuff. So I think it can go both ways. If you do the interview first, you can have a fake image that someone's portraying to you. In 30 minutes, it's not hard to fake something.
Sure.
And then you're looking at their social media, and that either will affirm or decline what you thought of them anyway. So I don't know. I think social media is really important in terms of personal brand, especially when you want to be self-employed in an industry like real estate or even being a broker. So I hold a lot of value on how people present themselves online?
Yeah. I feel like people are getting, like, social media is important, but then I feel like there's a lot of people who are using social media to like cultivate a reality that's not really reflective of how they are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sure you've seen these people, like, you know, on a private jets, and they're basically like, you know, on a sound stage setting it up,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, or whatever. That's not really what we're dealing with right now, right? But like a lot of people are going to certain levels of trying to project, you know, a certain type of perception and then what it is, right? So I try to like not get sucked into that, right? But it is hard because it's so much around us these days, right?
Mm. But
That's, yeah.
wouldn't that be a valuable thing going into an interview to see? Obvious, like for what our culture is with our team and who we are, it's a lot of very humble, really hardworking, intelligent people who treat people well.
Yeah.
So if the first photo I see is someone on a jet with a suitcase of $100 bills,
Making it rain.
probably not this like the right fit for us.
Fair enough.
Right?
It'll come out eventually, right? Like it's before or afterwards, social media creeping must be done, right? Like it's a prerequisite, right? You know, so it's like, okay, what's your LinkedIn? What's your username on IG, right? So we can kind of peruse it, right? And I don't know. So, but yeah, like it comes with it, right? Because it's like I don't know. You tell me, have you seen any realtors who are in the business that doesn't have a social media presence? Is that even possible now?
Yep.
And they're top producers. I'm not
Like-
talking. I'm talking about guys who are like in the younger demographic. Like, how you have younger guys who are doing well, medallion winners who are not using social media. Is that possible?
Using social media well or using social media?
That's a good question. Let's just say using social media at this point.
In
Like,
general, I
yeah.
think it's a prerequisite to it's like having a website. Like whenever someone, let's say I meet Carl, Carl's my best buddy. I say, Carl, you just bought a house a year ago. Who'd you use as your mortgage broker? And he says, Shaun Francis. He was a great dude. Immediately,
Correct.
I'm looking at Shaun Francis's website. I'm looking at your social media. If you have 3 posts and they're all of you like kissing your dog, I don't know if you're the right fit for me. Yeah. Although I do like dogs. It's just, I would assume you'd have a little bit more of a presence. If your website sucks or you don't have a website, I'm probably Googling mortgage brokers in Burnaby, mortgage brokers in Vancouver, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a prerequisite that it's required. I'd say most of our clients are looking at our social media
before they meet you.
Even comment on our social media,
and before they even had a chance to meet. And
Absolutely.
You're like, I think that's really how it is. Like before, as soon as you get the referral, the first thing that someone's doing is they're Googling your name,
exactly,
seeing, you know, whatever comes up. To be honest, and I'm putting it out there for you and all the brokers, we're even coached by the lenders that we are doing deals to. The first thing you're supposed to do when you get a referral or when you start working with a client is you Google their name, because there are some clients who've been connected to criminal activity or whatever, and they're not the right type of clients for the lenders, and the broker could be held responsible for things if you don't kind of, it's called know your client.
Yeah. So
yeah, I feel like looking at social media and what their reputation is online is like paramount for everything.
Yeah.
So I guess I feel like in your interview for employees or whoever, right? Sometimes it's important, but you don't want to get it to be clouded, I guess. I don't know. So I rather look at that afterwards, right? After I kind of had an idea of where things are going, if they're going to be a fit or not. And that kind of is like the icing on the cake or whatever.
Interesting. Because let's say we post and even if it's a new realtor, let's say we were looking to bring on another realtor on our team. We have done some social media ads. People are emailing or whatever. If we have a dozen people that email us.
Oh, okay. I see where you're going with it. Yeah.
Whether it's a resume or like realtors don't really use resumes. So whether it's an email, like I'm probably picking 3 or 4 and looking at social media and making my decision on whether I'm meeting with them based on whether they're active or not on social media.
Right. Okay. I get what you're
right?
saying. I think, I guess I would, in my scenario, I hop on LinkedIn, right?
Okay.
And you kind of like your LinkedIn profile is your living, breathing resume, right?
Mhm.
And moving on to LinkedIn, I've heard of, through some discussion boards or whatever, like LinkedIn is coming back almost in terms of like being a hot platform for increased business. Is what's your take on that? Have you seen that or heard that as well? Or
I've heard Gary Vee talk about it. I I think it's really just important, and I don't do a good job of this, but I do think it's important to have a presence on all platforms because different people find different platforms more valuable, right?
yeah,
So whether let's say you're an executive in a company, LinkedIn is probably pretty important for you. That's where you're probably looking for new employees. That's probably where you're posting job ads. That's where you're recruiting for your company. So if that executive is looking for a realtor to sell his home or her home, they would likely look me up on LinkedIn. Whereas a young couple who maybe one of them's a teacher, one of them's a contractor, they're probably not using LinkedIn. They're probably looking at our website and maybe Instagram,
right.
probably not using Facebook. Older people maybe using Facebook. So I think it's important to have a presence on each platform. Not that you have to use them daily, but I think it's important to have presences on them. And I don't necessarily do that well, but I probably should take my own advice and do it. Like I have
You
them
can only
all.
do so much, right? Like
I know
there's like a opportunity cost of your time,
Mhm.
and I'm a believer of you pick your plan and you execute on it and
Yeah.
you kind of like you die by that kind
Yeah.
of thing, right? Because you're not doing any value to yourself or value to yourself by doing something half-assed, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if you can just kill it in one space or two or three spaces, that's a lot better than mediocre in 5 or 7 different spaces, because it's just like you need to get a little bit of weight and momentum behind you,
Yeah.
right?
What time you got to go?
I don't know how long we were talking now.
7:40.
A couple more, like, yeah, 10 minutes more, because
Okay.
how long's it been? Right, it's been like an hour.
Hour and 20.
Hour 20, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we're putting in a good shift here.
You got 10 more minutes?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, there's a couple more things. Speaking of like stretching yourself too thin and focusing in on stuff, what do you like doing prospecting wise? Like, where do you find the most value? You've been an independent broker for 4 years. You've built this team.
I really love doing my job. This is like I feel like I'm like one of the most fortunate people. So I like working with people that I can like help them, and they actually appreciate the experience of working with me.
But where are you finding people?
So I'm finding people who need my help. I'm finding people who are in a niche. Like I'm finding people who are self-employed, who are extremely busy.
But how are you doing that?
Um,
Is it like from my side of the industry, looking at mortgage brokers, I would assume building connections with realtors is super important.
Correct.
I would assume building connections with maybe mortgage people at banks who can't necessarily fulfill this client's needs and need to pass them somewhere would be also important.
Correct.
But in terms of like end consumers, again, from a consumer perspective who uses mortgage brokers, online presence would be ultra important to me. If I wasn't a realtor, I would be, and I didn't have a referral or a friend who was a mortgage broker, I'd be Googling Burnaby mortgage broker or, things like that.
Okay. So you're saying how I prospect? Okay. So,
or how, like, where are your sources of business coming from?
So I think anyone who's a mortgage broker who's top, they have to have a stable of realtors that they work with, because that is like the lifeblood of a broker, because it just makes sense. New buyer, broker, realtor, let's do business.
Yeah.
Right. So for sure, realtors. And I know some realtors, the dynamic between some brokers and realtors are like broken. And, I've heard some realtors say, I don't want to refer to brokers because if the transaction goes sideways, the client blames me. So that's the feedback for some realtors. And some brokers are saying, I don't want to work with realtors because, the realtors are like divas and they XYZ and all this and that. Right. So it's like kind of like that dynamic. But if you're wanting to be a successful partnership, you need to be able to work with realtors because they have buyers in their hand. They have live buyers that they need it, right? And so, when you're a good broker that can like make the realtor's life easier, like then you're going to get business because the realtor at the end of the day doesn't get paid until the deal gets approved and funded. And so therefore they have a vested interest in having a relationship with a broker that can be open with them and say, you know what, this deal is going to go ahead, have faith, go ahead and put your best foot forward when you put this offer. You're not going to embarrass yourself because I looked at the numbers, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Whereas if you allow the client to choose whatever realtor they want to work with, a realtor or broker they want to work with, and you don't really have that connection, and the client is talking to not necessarily another mortgage broker, but like someone at the branch that's only Monday to Friday and kind of is like a junior individual that kind of is like very used to cookie cutter deals, and all of a sudden there's a co-applicant on the deal that adds a liability, that deal doesn't work anymore, and then they're like freaked out. Like that does happen. You want to be in control of your success, right? So that's why I try to like market myself to a select group of realtors and say, this is the value proposition I have. And I think the next question is like, where else you get your business from? I try to like, as a broker, I try to operate like a realtor. And so what that means is I try to attract clients that come to me directly versus trying to go to the traditional means of accountants, lawyers, divorce lawyers, realtors.
Do people do that?
Sorry, what?
People market specifically to divorce lawyers to get.
There's business there to be had, and like
sketchy.
Realistically, that's a market that needs to be taken care of, right? Yeah. If someone's been married for 15, 20 years, right, and now they're in the market trying to like get a home, and they've never done this before, and we're talking about either the housewife or the house husband, right? Yeah. That they need someone that's knowledgeable that can help them walk them through this very stressful step, right? So yeah, that's a niche, right? But if I try to operate like a realtor and try to attract clients that come to me directly, it works in two phases. It allows me to be able to bring clients to my realtor partners, right? And it also allows me to be able to work from the client from the day one. I can help prepare them for success. I can tell them what they need to do in terms of to fix their credit, in terms of like, don't quit your job, or this is the job you need to like aim for to get this type of income to qualify, and we can work together and move them along, right? And then there's a lot more stickiness in terms of like staying with me, the broker, versus I'm meeting the client halfway along the process. So I try to find any opportunity to look for buyers, for clients. Like, at my gym, for example, I try to be helpful, right? And it's not like it's like I'm soliciting them. It's just like, I'm putting it out there. It goes, I've been able to help people like you in this circumstance, so perhaps there might be a fit for you, right? Or, I was even, talking to like my family doctor, and I was like, I was saying, what? I was able to do this for this type of individual, and then they're like, oh, like, do you have a card? Like, so that's what it is. I've tried to find a niche and identify people who are self-employed. And then I try to demonstrate to them how I've been able to help value of people of that type of industry. So maybe it might be a fit for them, right? And then operate like a realtor, start to market to a demographic area, right? And then you can start to get some traction in that space.
How powerful is networking?
That's the lifeblood of anyone who's successful, right?
Isn't that ridiculous? Like when I was a kid and even after in university, I wasn't really that outgoing. I wasn't really the type of person, if I haven't seen someone in a couple of years and they're walking on the other side of the street, I would just kind of like put my head down and keep going. Whereas like I would go out of my way now to say hi to people if I haven't seen them. Even yesterday, I met a client at a brewery. Hadn't seen someone in like a year or something like that. And he didn't see me, but like go out of your way to say hi to people.
You know what?
The power of being nice to people is unbelievable.
I know sometimes like, sometimes my wife is like, why are you bothering these people? Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? That's just my nature, right? Like, it's just like, I'm genuinely excited to see and hear from people and hear what they've been up to.
Yeah.
Right. And people like, I think they say some of the sweetest words you can say to someone's their name.
Totally.
Right. If you can show genuine interest in how they're doing and can relate to them on a human level.
Remember things, right?
About them, about them, right?
Like, Shaun, I haven't seen you in a year. I know you had a kid. How's he doing? Right?
Yeah,
Like those things.
and as a father, you're so proud of your kid, and
Yeah.
and it's just kind of like, oh, like this guy really cares not only about me, but he cares about my son, right? And it's not even that's just life, right? Because people want to do business with people that they care about, right? And people don't want to disappoint people that care about them, and you care about them, and they care about you,
Mhm.
right? And so when you start finding genuine connections, right, and you could do business with people who you care about and you like, then it's just it just everyone's better off, right? They take your advice, right?
Mhm.
Because you know because they feel like you care about them like family, and so they're like, okay, this guy, you know, is coming from a position of, hey, he cares about me. I'm going to really listen to what they have to say.
Yeah. You say obviously connections with realtors is a big portion of your business.
Yeah.
What out of the gates 4 years ago, what was the strategy, or how did you build those connections with realtors? And who are you trying to attract as realtor partners?
Just people who are like-minded.
Mm.
You know, like for example, we've done a lot of business together, right? And it's just like, just like there's this a level of trust, right?
Yeah.
And respect that comes along with it, right?
Mm.
And you know, people that, you know, hey, we can respect and trust his advice, and so we're comfortable, you know, taking his advice and comfortable sending our clients to him.
Mm.
Because anyone that comes across to me from any realtor or any COI, a COI is called center of influence, is I don't want to as just as important, just as that person or that referral is important, that individual that's sending me that deal is almost more important or just as important, because that relationship, I really respect a lot of it, right? Because when you put yourself out there referring someone to you, it's like that means a lot, right?
Mm.
And so you want to like honor that and make sure that it's respected.
How do you build those connections though? Because obviously, from my perspective as a realtor, probably get, for some reason it doesn't seem like so much anymore this year, but in the last few years it seems like 3 to 10 phone calls, emails, messages from mortgage people a week.
Yeah, we should work
Right?
together and
Yeah.
this and that, and like, yeah, let's do this.
But how do you turn that first interaction from a negative? Because a lot of times for me, it's just like, stop fucking bothering me. I got my 3 people. Like, I'm not going anywhere else. I don't care if you're God. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I love my people that I work with.
I get it. I can't blame you because the people you work with are rock stars. But no, truth be told, when I first started, because we all started to start somewhere, right? And it's hard. You got to like kind of like, you got to like wiggle your way in, right? And I don't know, anyone who's starting new, this is a strategy I would kind of like suggest for them, right? Because I'm not new anymore, so this strategy doesn't apply to me, right? Because I could probably take a meeting with a realtor, and they could probably Google me, and they know that, hey, this guy's a legitimate broker.
Yeah.
I can take him seriously.
Yeah.
But if you're a new broker, they don't know you or what you're capable of, right? So what you probably need to do is you need to divide up your realtors in categories: new to industry realtors, realtors who are on the come up, and then well-established realtors, right? And the well-established realtors probably are not going to necessarily work with you because you're a brand new realtor. So you're not going to probably focus your time in on those type of individuals. But you might want to like spend 10 to 15% of your time with them, because then that might be the odd situation where their guy is like let them down, or they're just in that you caught them on a good day, right? And you know, you might pick up one of those type of individuals, and then you can like be their go-to guy going forward. Like all it takes is just one good opportunity, right?
For some reason, this just popped in my head, but there would be no harm for a new broker to take someone, an established realtor, top 1% guys, person that's done whatever, does 100 deals a year. Why not take them out for coffee? At least ask them out for coffee and say, hey, what's important to you in a mortgage broker? I'm just kind of getting my career started. I want to know like what I can do to work with other people like you, or work with the next you.
You know what?
Right? Don't necessarily solicit to them,
correct.
but ask them what's important to them, what they like about their people that they work with.
You know what? That was, you kind of took that out of my head, because if that is the right strategy, because if you are people who are really established, they also have like a need to almost like give back to the industry.
A lot do. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, you know what? They would see you when you first started in January 2019 to see where you are January 2020. And you might not earn the right to get any referrals from them in your year 1, but year 2, they're like, you know what? We saw Shaun. He was new and he asked me and I told him what to do. And now he's doing what I said. And now he's done, let's say 25 deals. I'm going to give him a chance to do one of my deals the next year. Right. But all it takes is kind of like building that relationship. Right. Yeah. And you got to, it's probably going to be more you, the newer broker, approaching them than them approaching you, because that's just how it works. Yeah. Right. But most people will probably approach the veterans once or twice and then give up, right? But you got to have this tenacity, right? Because you can spend your time, if you're a new broker, with new realtors, right? But if this new realtor is not doing any business, and then you're just kind of wasting your time, right? Because then you're just kind of like hanging out with each other, and then it's like it's not a fit. Yeah. Or if you find a realtor on the come up, right, that is like doing the right things, that has this energy about them, that is always at their open houses, has a wonderful social media presence, presents themselves well, you can tell that they're going to be a star, and you can be their guy, and then you can kind of grow together, then that's a wonderful thing as well too. So if you kind of like strategize in terms of like how you want to work with these different key individuals, I think that's how you grow a sustainable business, right?
I think it can, like for us, when I look at listing presentations, it's gaining a client. So be similar for you guys, you on your side of the industry as well. The first thing I'll always like I say to our team, the most important thing in a listing presentation, or even asking, what's the most important thing in a listing presentation? A lot of realtors will say, well, I need to talk about my marketing strategy. I need to have a good evaluation. I need to provide them with a ton of information. I'm like, you're fucking wrong. You need to listen to them. Yeah. You need to ask them questions. You need to say, have you sold before? Yes. Okay. Well, what was your last selling experience like? And then likely, in my experience, they're going to tell you everything that was wrong with their last realtor.
And you do exactly opposite of that.
They did open houses every week, which was great, but I never knew what happened. Like they never communicated with me. They never sent me an email afterwards saying they had 5 people come through, 0 people come through. I just didn't really know what was going on. Perfect. In my head, communication's important to them. I need to talk about that in this meeting. And often they'll have multiple things, or they'll say, it was great. The reason I liked them was these things. Perfect. Or, it took a while to sell, but they provided me with evaluations every week, and I felt like I knew what was going on in the market, and it was just a slower market. Perfect. They value information. And then I did not know this at the beginning, and in the first couple of years of listing presentations, I was not good. But I've learned that listening is the most important thing, and adjusting how you present information to them based on what they're looking for, right? Yeah. So some clients don't give a shit about what's sold. They've researched us on social media. They've looked at our website. They know we do a ton of business in the suburbs of Greater Vancouver. And they just say, what is my place worth? I just want you to tell me, and I want you to tell me where to sign, and I want you to take care of it because I know you guys are good. Okay, it's going to be a quick meeting. I'm going to tell you it's worth $7.99. We're going to list on Monday, or we're going to do photos on Monday. We're going to list next week, whatever. Other people want a ton of information. Other people want you to address their concern of communication. Other people want you to address their concern of realtors taking advantage of people, because we have this terrible reputation, or a lot of us do. And so immediately I'll say, these are the 3 things in our listing contract that protect you. 1, cancel at any time. You only pay me anything if it sells, blah, 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 blah. So I don't know exactly where I'm going with this point, but I think the reason that I thought of that was because of that question. And like, how do you get started? Take people out for coffee and ask them what's important to them, right? So like, if you're a top realtor, I'm a new mortgage broker, I'm taking you out for coffee and I'm saying, why do you like these? Who do you work with in the industry? I work with Shaun Francis. What do you like about him? What does he do that, you trust him so much? And then you're just learning and saying, okay, well, when I meet John Smith, who's a new realtor, or maybe he's been in the industry for 3 years and looks like he's going to be the next guy, what do I need to provide to him that he's going to stick with me?
Absolutely. And further along to that comment about listening to what they have to say, I forgot where I learned this, but it was the personality test, right? You have to, those people who are able to determine what type of individual you are before you have the meeting will have a better outcome than not. Because there's some people that need to slow to make a decision. So you need to give them all the information first, and they have to process the information, and then they will be happy to move ahead. But if you are a salesperson that doesn't give them the information and says, but I'm Shaun Francis, don't you know who I am? Like, they're like, whoa. Like, I need this information, so you're not my guy, right? But if you go into the meeting with no expectations, but just listening to what kind of energy the person puts out and who the decision maker is and whatnot, then the meeting will flow that much better, and both sides will get a better outcome out of it, right? And so some people are very like they need to touch and feel, or some people need to like process it, or some people need to have written. It's like I met a lot of clients in there, like they're asking me to like give them the scenario like written down, right? And I got to write it down, and it's not really like that much fun because it's like extra work. But if for me to get the deal, that's what I got to do, and I write it all down. I give it to them. They take a look at it, and the next day they come back, right? Or they can use it to go to their home branch or whatever, right? But 9 times out of 10, they respect or appreciate the effort that I've put forward, and so I've earned the right to get the business. So you got to like give them what they want, right? And then add value to it.
Obviously, you guys are doing really well this year and having a record year in a down market. What can you guys improve on?
Pretty much everything.
Like,
right?
Is there something you're focusing on? Because the reason I asked that question is because there's one part of our business where we feel like we're losing business because we're not doing it very well.
What's that?
Database marketing. We do it fairly well in terms of our industry, but we feel like there's a lot of left opportunity on the table.
That's true.
If we can excel at that.
That's how you grow your business by either getting new clients or like protecting protecting your back end and working with your existing client base, right? And so a lot of people, they're like, gotta get more clients, and then they're like constantly marketing and buying like sales lists and whatnot when their list is like their past clients, right? So it's a double-edged sword, right? So that's good feedback. I think we all can do a better job of trying to contact our clients, right? But sometimes we are in this industry, you're more reactive than proactive, right? But those brokers, those realtors who can be more proactive, when I was at the bank, we learned a lot of, wonderful techniques at the bank. And one of the techniques at the bank is like, you gotta, you build in white space, or you got to build in space to do your calls, right? Like, even though when the market is smoking busy, you got to like build in like an hour or 2 hours or whatever to like touch base to your existing clientele, even though there's no business out of it. Because now when the market is down, there was like, what, we really appreciate Shaun. He checked in on me and whatever. So that's the kind of attitude you have to have. And that's something that obviously, I could be better at, and, people in the office could be better at, right? So that's something that we can be better at. That's
back to what I said early, right? Remember when we started talking about 2019 and how it's a slower year?
Yeah.
The people that are doing well in 2019 are the people that have been putting in the work in the past, right?
Yeah.
In the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's those types of prospecting, I call it prospecting, tendencies or routines, I guess, that make the difference in slow years, right?
I definitely think so. Like the client, small stuff like the client appreciation event, right? Like, I think that's a wonderful thing. That's something every year I'm looking forward to coming to, right? Christmas cards, and they're like a pain, and some people look at it and they toss it, right? Other people are like, when you start doing it, they're like expecting to get their Christmas cards or expecting to get the calendars, right? Like, that was a tradition that is meaningful, right?
Yeah.
And so, every single year I come around, I'm like, I said to myself, I'm not going to do the calendars this year, right? But I end up doing it because there's inevitably someone's like, what, we really appreciate that. And then sometimes I feel like they don't care, but people do want it, right? So you got to do the small stuff, right? Continue to do the small stuff, which will lead into the big stuff.
And so for us, we've noted that as something we can really improve on, and especially in a slower year for us in 2019. And so for us, that looks like we're back on the train of birthdays and anniversary cards. So every past client if they've moved into a new spot, they're getting a yearly anniversary card with like a scratch and win ticket or a Starbucks gift card or something like that.
Cool.
Birthday cards. And then like following up with people and just calling them out of the blue and being like, hey, Sally, I haven't talked to you in 3 years. You moved into this house here. How are you liking the neighborhood? It's super awkward. But if you have an excuse to call people, it makes it less awkward. So
I 100% agree. But I guess whenever I don't call all my past clients all the time.
Yeah.
But if I were to call my past client, it would be a good conversation because I was involved in every single one of their transactions.
Yeah.
Like I know I can recall their circumstance, right? Once I look at the file of what we did. So the conversation, that's a good thing, right? Because you can talk to that and then you can kind of build off of that. And, a year later, how's things going? Or how, I know we did that refinance and we, like, how was your life changed since that? Or you've been able to build back your credit or buy the investment property that you wanted, right?
Yeah.
So it's really important to be involved in the file in some way, because as you start to get busier and you start to scale, I think that, there is a human touch that should be involved, right? Be it, I try to call every single client after the deal funds just to check in, right? And say, thank you for choosing me, because just as much as like I did something for them, they did make the choice of working with me. So I am appreciative of that, right?
Yeah.
And just say, you know what, like, congratulations on your next journey, right? Because buying a house is like a big step, right? Or, refinancing, you wouldn't imagine how happy or relieved people are when I'm able to put together like a refinance for them and consolidate debt and put it into one payment. It's like a wonderful, people are really happy to have that peace of mind, right? And I'm so happy to be able to provide that service for them.
That follow-up phone call is huge. Do you do anything longer term though?
I've done some client events, right? Spring break, I did a client event, spring break at Extreme Air Park. And then my clients were invited and they can bring their clients in there. And that was really cool because it was an opportunity just to kind of, the kids go play, the parents have like 2 hours to themselves, right? And then they come back to pick up the kids and then we have a chance to chat with the parents, right? And, but that takes a lot of coordination and stuff like that, right? But that's something that's been good. And we do the Christmas cards, we do the calendars, we do thank you cards, birthday cards, right? And then the phone calls, right?
I think that's the next level stuff. And like what we're planning to do for next year is we're trying to have 4 events. So that
ambitious.
Well, okay. So I'll tell you what they're.
That?
Well, now, Shaun, we're back to hiring, right?
Good point.
Hiring. So we have a super organized admin person right now who's phenomenal. And
does she have any other friends that she can send my?
No, she's not for hire. She has a great job with us. So we want to do like a family day event.
Cool.
Family day long weekend, something for like kids to come, exactly like what you did with the air park, something like that. We've got the Steel and Oak event every year that we do in July. This year we're doing a pumpkin pickup.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And really what we're trying to create, obviously it's great to like see people on a quarterly basis, or whether they come to one event a year, doesn't matter, whatever. It's nice to be able to follow up with people. But for realtors on our team, it's awkward to call people out of the blue. So we want to give them opportunities to make it less awkward, to send someone an email saying, hey, Karen, hope you're loving your new townhouse. You moved in October. How's the neighborhood? Any feedback for us? By the way, it's whatever, June 15th. We're doing our annual Steel and Oak party this coming Sunday. We'd love to see you there. Let us know if you're, it's just a little bit less awkward when you're inviting them to something.
That is very smart because, at the bank, it was like, we had to do our proactive calling, right? And the clients are like, hello, Mr. Smith, it's Shaun Francis. And then they're like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so bad. But when you're like, hi, Mr. Smith, it's Shaun Francis from the bank. Just want to follow up with you. We have a client appreciation event that's coming up in the next couple weeks. Just want to make, and then the walls just come down.
Exactly. And
then you can riff off of that, moving on to like other business, because there is needs there. And but it's people don't want to be harassed, or they think no one likes to be sold, right?
Yeah.
But when you start like bringing value and just kind of like talking a little bit about what we can provide for them or whatnot, they appreciate that. So sometimes when I make these calls to my past clients, is I have no agenda. It's just hey, you know what? Just want to check in how things are going, and then all of a sudden, if something comes out of it, great. But like that's something that for 2020 is my goal, is just to kind of contact at least. I don't know what the formula is. I think I don't know if it's quarterly or every semi-annually, but past client, just checking in, right? There's also something that too with my network mortgage alliance that we do is there's this link that past clients get, where they get coupons and discounts for products and services in the Lower Mainland. And so when they log in to like access this coupon, they know that it came from their broker, which is me, which is another like positive association and ongoing adding value. So stuff like that.
The power of follow-ups.
Yeah.
What do we talk about today? Networking, follow-ups.
Networking.
Two biggest things.
Networking, follow-ups, systems, efficiencies. Powerful stuff, man.
There was a lot of good stuff in there, Carl.
Lots of good stuff. I got lots of good tidbits here.
Carl, what was your favorite tidbit?
The whole networking thing, because you guys are 100% correct. It's everything. You mean you can go to college and do all that stuff, but like the best thing that you can do at college is network.
Absolutely.
And get to know people.
You know what? That sometimes pays for that in itself. You're really right, because of the relationships with the professors and the people that your lifelong friendships. Sometimes that in itself is even more valuable. Yeah.
Always a pleasure, man. That was a lot of fun.
Sounds good, man.
I'll have to do it again soon.
But absolutely, thanks for having me.
Say hi to Ari for me. Give him a high five.
I will. We're heading out of town in the next little bit here, so he's going to be international Ari.
Enjoy the getaway.
Okay, thanks, buddy.
All right. Later.
Thanks. Cheers.